Anakin Skywalker's story does not begin with heroism or destiny, but with captivity. And that origin quietly defines everything that follows. He is introduced not as a saviour in waiting, but as a child who owns nothing, not even himself. Powerlessness is his first language, and survival his earliest lesson. Control becomes synonymous with safety, long before the Jedi ever test him. This foundational fear never leaves him. It only evolves into more dangerous forms. Anakin Skywalker carries slavery with him invisibly, even after the chains are removed. Freedom arrives suddenly without preparation or healing. Trauma is treated as background rather than substance. The Jedi see potential where a child needs stability. His fear of losing control is not a flaw introduced later, but a scar from the beginning. The galaxy never fully acknowledges what it asks him to overcome. The Chosen One prophecy compounds this damage because it assigns cosmic significance before emotional maturity. Anakin is told he matters more than others without being taught how to carry that weight. Expectation replaces guidance and reverence replaces care. He is elevated symbolically while remaining isolated relationally. The prophecy does not empower him, it separates him. Being special becomes another form of loneliness. Within the Jedi Order, this isolation deepens because Anakin is evaluated as an outcome rather than supported as a process. The prophecy becomes a measuring stick rather than a responsibility. His struggles are interpreted as signs of danger rather than calls for help. Instead of mentorship, he receives surveillance. Instead of trust, he receives tests. The message becomes clear long before anyone says it aloud. Jedi Order demands detachment as virtue, but offers no tools for healing. Anakin's trauma is acknowledged intellectually and ignored practically. Fear is discouraged rather than explored. Pain is something to be outgrown rather than processed. By treating emotion as threat, the Order ensures it will fester in secrecy. Suppression masquerades as discipline, and discipline replaces compassion. This approach teaches Anakin that honesty leads to judgment rather than support. He learns quickly that revealing fear results in distance. The safest option becomes concealment. Emotional isolation becomes normalized. What the Jedi call balance, Anakin experiences as silence. In this environment, attachment does not disappear. It becomes desperate. Padme Amidala enters his life as a counterweight to this emptiness, and their bond is sincere at its origin. She represents choice rather than destiny, and connection rather than evaluation. With her, Anakin is not a symbol or a test, but a person. Love offers him something the Order never has, which is permission to be vulnerable. The danger lies not in the bond itself, but in how fear reshapes it. Padme Amidala becomes both anchor and trigger, because Anakin has never learned how to love without clinging. His fear of loss converts affection into urgency. What begins as care transforms into fixation under pressure. Love becomes something to defend at any cost rather than something to share. Possession creeps in where trust was never taught. Fear distorts devotion. The Jedi misread this dynamic catastrophically by framing love itself as the problem. Their prohibition reinforces Anakin's belief that honesty equals rejection. He does not learn to separate love from control because no one helps him navigate the difference. Secrecy becomes necessary for survival within the Order. The wedge between who he is and who he is allowed to be widens. Duality takes root. This internal fracture reaches a breaking point when the Council denies Anakin the rank of Master. On the surface, it is a procedural decision rooted in tradition. On a psychological level, it confirms his deepest fear that he will never be trusted. Years of service, sacrifice, and loyalty are dismissed with restraint rather than recognition. The message is not caution, but exclusion. The wound is institutional. Jedi High Council unintentionally validates every insecurity Anakin carries. He is asked to perform mastery without being granted dignity. Authority is demanded without acceptance. In that moment, the Jedi cease to feel like guardians and begin to feel like gatekeepers. Anakin's resentment crystallizes into certainty. The Order will use him but never believe in him. This confirmation is devastating because it occurs when Anakin is most vulnerable. Visions of loss are escalating his fear. Padme's life feels precarious. The war has already normalized moral compromise. When the Council withholds trust, it removes the last remaining reason to confide in them. Isolation becomes absolute. The door does not slam shut, it quietly locks. At this stage, the fall has not yet occurred, but the conditions are complete. Fear has replaced trust. Silence has replaced guidance. Love has become something to protect rather than nurture. Destiny has replaced agency. The tragedy is already underway, even if the final step has not been taken. Anakin is standing at the center of converging pressures with no safe outlet. Every system meant to support him has instead intensified his fear of loss. The Jedi have confirmed his exclusion. The prophecy has magnified his isolation. Love has become endangered rather than sustaining. In this state, he does not need corruption, he needs permission. And that permission is waiting patiently in the shadows. Palpatine enters Anakin's life at precisely the moment when permission matters more than instruction, and that distinction defines the nature of the seduction. He does not challenge Anakin's fear or attempt to replace it with ideology. Instead, he validates it calmly and without judgment. He listens when the Jedi observe, and he affirms when the Order withholds trust. The dark side is introduced not as corruption, but as understanding. In that recognition, Anakin feels seen for the first time. Palpatine never offers Anakin power in the abstract because strength alone is not what Anakin craves. He offers moral exemption. He reframes fear as wisdom and desperation as responsibility. Every forbidden technique is justified as a temporary measure in service of love. The dark side becomes less about domination and more about permission to act without restraint. This is not temptation by excess, but by relief. Once permission is granted, the fall unfolds through a series of decisions that each feel defensible in isolation. Anakin does not wake up intending to destroy everything he values. He reacts to emergencies framed as immediate and irreversible. Each compromise is rationalized as preventing greater harm. Lines are crossed not with exhilaration, but with resolve. The tragedy is that each step reduces the possibility of turning back. What makes these betrayals so effective is that they are framed as continuations of values Anakin already holds. Loyalty becomes secrecy, protection becomes violence, love becomes ownership. The dark side does not replace his moral language. It hijacks it. Anakin believes he is still acting in service of life even as he extinguishes it. Fear narrows his vision until alternatives disappear. The moment Anakin becomes Vader is therefore not a coronation, but a collapse inward. There is no triumph in the transformation, only finality. The suit does not elevate him, it entombs him. Breath becomes mechanical sensation dulled and pain constant. What remains of Anakin is sealed inside armor, designed to punish rather than empower. Survival becomes sentence rather than reward. Darth Vader exists as a walking consequence of choices made under fear. The armor keeps him alive, but ensures he can never forget what he has lost. Every movement is constrained, every breath laboured, and every moment solitary. The Emperor does not give him freedom, he gives him endurance. Vader is not the dark side's champion, but its captive. Power comes at the cost of self. This is why Vader functions less as a new identity and more as a burial. Anakin does not evolve, he disappears. The name Vader exists to erase the man who failed to save what he loved. Guilt becomes ritualized through obedience. Violence becomes routine because stillness would invite memory. The armor is both shield and prison-sealing regret, inside a system that never allows release. Survival under these conditions requires psychological fragmentation. Anakin endures by burying himself under function and command. Vader is constructed to kill the part of him that feels. Compassion is treated as weakness memory, as threat and introspection as danger. The man who once feared loss now fears remembrance. The dark side sustains him only by demanding constant denial. This internal death is why Vader's presence feels so heavy throughout the galaxy. He is not animated by rage alone, but by grief unresolved. His brutality is not expressive, it is suppressive. Each act of violence is an attempt to quiet what cannot be healed. The Empire does not just wield him, it mirrors him. Control replaces connection, and fear replaces trust on every level. Yet the story does not end in that burial because fear is not absolute and denial is not permanent. The arrival of Luke Skywalker reintroduces something Anakin has not encountered in decades: recognition without demand. Luke does not seek to control Vader or justify him. He simply refuses to accept the lie that Anakin is gone. This refusal destabilizes the prison more than any attack. Luke's presence forces confrontation, not through accusation, but through persistence. He represents love without possession and belief without condition. Vader is offered something he has not felt since Padme, which is hope that does not require domination. This is deeply threatening because it undermines the logic that sustained his survival. To accept Luke's compassion would mean facing pain long avoided. Redemption arrives not through conquest, but through a single decision to stop running. Anakin does not overthrow the Emperor to reclaim power. He acts to save his son because love finally outweighs fear. The choice is small and devastatingly human. He accepts death rather than continue living as denial. In doing so, he reclaims agency lost long ago. Luke Skywalker does not redeem Anakin by argument or ideology, but by presence. He offers relationship where systems offered roles. The redemption is not public or symbolic. It is intimate and terminal. Anakin returns not as a hero restored, but as a man choosing love one last time. The galaxy changes because a father responds to a son. This final act completes the cycle begun in slavery because Anakin finally relinquishes control without losing himself. He accepts loss rather than preventing it. The fear that once governed every decision is rendered powerless by choice. Redemption is not erasure of guilt, but acceptance of consequence. Anakin does not escape death, he embraces it freely. Freedom arrives only at the end. The saga insists through this arc that falling is not the same as being lost forever. Systems can fail catastrophically, and individuals can make unforgivable choices, yet humanity remains accessible. Redemption does not undo harm, but it interrupts its continuation. Anakin's final choice does not save the galaxy alone, but it breaks the cycle of fear that built the Empire. One decision reclaims meaning from tragedy. In reframing the rise, fall and redemption, this way Star Wars presents its most sobering truth, that evil often grows from unhealed pain and survives through avoidance. Strength without compassion becomes tyranny. Love without trust becomes possession. Survival without honesty becomes imprisonment. Anakin's life traces all three paths and closes them with a final act of clarity. The story ends not with balance achieved through power, but with balance restored through surrender. Anakin Skywalker does not fulfill prophecy by dominating darkness, but by choosing love over fear when it matters most. His arc warns that fear left untreated will hollow out even the most gifted soul. It also promises that choice remains until the last breath. That is the quiet mercy at the heart of the saga.
Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that share button. My main channel is Critical Analysis Hub, where I post Star Wars content about the movies. My secondary channel is Critical Analysis Hub Plus, where I focus on the shows of Star Wars. And my third channel is Critical Analysis Hub XP, where I post comic books. Be sure to take a moment and check them out. Thanks, and may the Force be with you.